SUPERHOT is one of those games that manages to flip a genre on its head with a simple mechanical change. Time only moves when you move. Speed is no longer an asset, it's a liability, for a single hit will take you down. A fair amount of thought and planning will be required instead. And all the while, two words will echo throughout your head. Super. Hot. Super. Hot. Super. Hot. The origins of such a game are in a prototype developed for a 7-day FPS challenge in 2013 by a small team of Polish developers. The game's director, Piotr Iwanicki, describes that their inspiration was drawn from a flash game called Time for Cat and a Biting Elbows music video. The original prototype would be refined and re-released in September 2013 as a Unity web application. This version of the game exploded in popularity overnight. I specifically remember discovering it through a Nerd Cubed video. You're actually still able to play that prototype on the SUPERHOT website. It now serves as a demo for the more polished final release of SUPERHOT. SUPERHOT would breeze through Steam Greenlight while that was a thing, and later the team launched a Kickstarter in May 2014. They promised to take the concept and turn it into a full game, complete with VR support, which was an insane novelty at the time. Funding managed to more than double the original goal of $100,000 with a multitude of stretch goals reached. Apparently, Cliffy B donated 2,000 smackers so he could design a level himself. Chris DeLay of Introversion Software is also hidden in the credits. The full version of SUPERHOT would be released in February of 2016 with the VR version coming out next year. While I don't own a VR headset, I have played it using a friend's long ago. It stands out as the best experience I've had using VR, even though it triggered my fear of heights. There's also an expansion game called SUPERHOT Mind Control Delete that entered early access in December 2017 and released in July of 2020. It was also given out for free to those who already own SUPERHOT. That earned a hell of a lot of respect from me, even if I'm not a huge fan of the expansion itself. But let's move on from the development into SUPERHOT itself. The visuals are an ultra-minimalistic style that is reminiscent of Mirror's Edge to me. The environment is pure white, interactables are bluish-black, and enemies and bullet trails are deep red. The game is reducing the amount of visual stimulus to the absolute bare minimum. This simplicity of color choice and polygonal models emphasizes the action within SUPERHOT. The developers expressly state that their intent with the visual design was to remove distractions and focus the player in on the gameplay. Thus, I have just about as much to say about the sound of SUPERHOT as I do the visual style. There's not much to talk about. There's no voice acting aside from a weird bit in the prototype.
You have served me well.
Music is basically non-existent outside of the credits. But the sound of this game is kind of incredible because it is always reflecting how time is moving. A bullet slowly whizzing by your head makes me feel like I'm Neo in the Matrix. Hearing glass slowly shatter makes me understand ASMR freaks. Just a bit. But the presentation is really secondary to the gameplay. SUPERHOT flips the genre on its head by tying the game's speed to the player's movement. It is an incredibly simple change that has huge ramifications for how the game is played. Running around will only get you killed. Though I wouldn't go as far as to say that this is a puzzle or a strategy game. Sure, some planning is required, but this is an action game first and foremost. The solution to all problems is violence and doing cool stuff. In practice, this means I can casually dodge a bullet and watch it go by. I weave through the shots of my enemies before smacking them upside the head. A katana can be used to cut a bullet. Bullets can even collide in midair. There are so many little interactions that can be seen due to the change in game speed. But it goes farther than that, because every shot you fire and every object you throw is affected. You follow the same rules as your enemies. Objects will take time to reach their destination, be they gun or bullet. Thus, you'll have to learn to lead your shots and predict enemy movements to succeed. Additionally, moving the camera will cause time to move. Heck, time isn't even fully stopped when you don't move. It moves at a crawl instead. You have some time to plan your attack, but it's not an infinite amount. That right there is why I consider it to be an action game. If this was a puzzle game, then time would be at a standstill when not moving to encourage players to think. This decision causes a player to be reactive instead of proactive. I'm really struggling to describe the gameplay of SUPERHOT. There's a part of me that wants to make a short montage and be like, look how cool this is! Despite that being obvious to anyone with eyes. Because at the end of the day, SUPERHOT is a very simple game without a ton to really expand upon. It is a game that is much better played than described. Sure, there is a narrative, but it's incredibly meta, so talking about it at all would be a disservice to SUPERHOT. So I'd encourage you to go out and try that demo and shell out some dollary dues for when it goes on sale. $25 is a touch steep, especially when the standalone expansion, which provides more game, is the exact same price. If you want the full experience, you'll have to shell out $50 at full price. Spend your money wisely, kids. Thanks for watching. More garbage to come.